Well, hello again, everybody. I have finally gotten around to seeing X-Men First Class. I would have saw it last weekend, but I had a few things I had to take care of. And I just got back from seeing it no longer than an hour ago, and it was okay. It was a fun, action-packed movie. From a movie-going experience, it was fantastic. It was great. It had a great pace to it. It paid great attention to its characters. Great, nice flow. All things considered, it was a very enjoyable ride. Much more than the Wolverine movie. I know I said the same thing about the Wolverine movie, but I was off kind of a high off of seeing characters like Gambit and everybody in that movie. But with this movie, I can honestly say that it was an enjoyable ride and really found a way to keep all the characters together and in the audience's mind, so you never forget everyone involved and not solely invested into one or two characters, unlike most of the other movies with Wolverine and a few other characters. This movie found a great way to have everyone involved and make sure it's a group team effort. And that was a really great dynamic to add to it. That's how X-Men movies should be. With that said, there are pros and cons to this movie, obviously. So first, as always, let me talk about the pros that I loved. I have to touch on this. I called it the moment I saw the trailer. When you call something, it's okay to give yourself a pat on the back. Michael Fassbender as Eric Lencher Magneto. That is the quintessential Magneto I have been waiting for. Ian McKellen really captured the elder Magneto, the Magneto who is a fully developed character, who knows his motivations, who's not afraid to be who he is, and who's completely confident. Patrick Stewart did the exact same thing for Xavier, and Michael Fassbender did that same thing with this young Magneto. I could feel his anger, I could feel his motivation, and he was a really great anti-hero. I found myself cheering for him with scenes that he wasn't really meant to be cheered for, that he was being very vicious and cruel. And you knew what he was capable of, and yet you really wanted to see him do it because, in a way, you felt these characters deserved it. That mankind, the humans that he was going after, really deserved to be hurt. And when a character can do that to its audience, you know that that's good writing and that's a good actor behind the role. So, fantastic props with Michael Fassbender as Magneto. In a way, I really hope to see more of him. If there is a sequel, he'll be one of the few things will be 100% looking forward to. James McAvoy is Professor Xavier, similar to Michael Fassbender. I really thought he captured the character fairly well and very true to the essence of Xavier. It was very fun seeing him as a young, youthful Xavier and knows how to party and how to swoon girls and use his powers in selfish ways at times, but still has the responsibility and knows what's right and wrong. And that was a really great side of that character to at least see a little bit of. And so you really get more of a sense of who he is than such a pure saint character that we see Patrick Stewart play. It was really great to see more of the human side of him, the side that he had to grow up from, so we feel more connected to him in the story. And that was fun. I really enjoyed that. Plus, people were geeking out over James McAvoy just because, he's been in movies like Wanted and Chronicles of Narnia, so he was a fun actor to see in that role. The action scenes were very well done. They really did the special effects very well. I heard someone say that when they saw Banshee fly, that it was the greatest flying scene they've seen in a movie. I don't know if I'd go that far, but the scenes like that where they had Banshee flying and everyone's powers being used, those were fantastic shots that looked incredible. Unlike the other X-Men movies, which parts of them have not aged well, let's be honest, this movie has state-of-the-art special effects, and it shows. It looks great. Even though the mutants that they really used for this film are not the more well-known mutants, they were played fairly well. They were written in very well. The powers were very fun to see. Like Beast, of course. I love seeing Beast. He's probably my favorite X-Man. I'm not going to get tired of seeing him. Banshee, who was really fun and not as boring of a character as I thought he would be. He was actually very fun. I could totally see him working in another X-Men movie. Azazel as the villain. He kind of reminded me of Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie. When everyone saw that movie for the first time, they geeked out over Sabretooth because he was like, oh, that's awesome! But he never really talks. He has maybe a few lines. And just like Sabretooth, Tyler Mane had in the first X-Men movie, only has a few lines. But just about every scene that he's in, the audience has all their eyes on Azazel. And in the first X-Men movie, everyone had their eyes all on Sabretooth because he's just that badass and he has that much charisma to him. Kind of like Sabretooth in a different way, Sabretooth. He has more of a dark, beastly charisma. And Azazel has more of a upbeat, lightning quick, fast charisma to him. And it was fun seeing him be a expert swordsman, since he is Nightcrawler's father. It was really cool seeing him do things that we know Nightcrawler would do and will eventually do, which was very fun, like the swordsman using his teleportation powers and use incredible things, flying in the air, going across the country, things like that. That was very fun. So, yeah, I thought seeing Azazel would just make me want to see Nightcrawler, but I'll admit I was wrong. Azazel held his own as a real character, and I really enjoyed that. The main villain, Sebastian Shaw, leader of the Hellfire Club, I did not expect him to be such a great villain, but he really turned out to be a really great antagonist where the audience really hated him and really wanted to see this bastard get his comeuppance. Kevin Bacon, I was just expecting to get Kevin Bacon, but no, he did a good job playing this vile, evil man who wanted to start World War III and wipe out humans so mutants could rise up. It was fun because that character was a big precursor to Magneto, the Magneto that Eric would grow up to be. So it was really neat seeing a character like that foreshadowing what Magneto was going to become. So now transitioning into the things I did not like with the movie, and this won't be too hard to do at all. First, I have to say that for a movie that tries so hard to really create a new tone and a new way of telling an X-Men movie to an audience, I really wish they hadn't done a prequel to the first 2 or 3 X-Men films, because this was a great chance for them to really do something interesting and different. Not that they didn't do that, but it felt like at times they were going out of their way to try to connect to the other X-Men movies, that those were chains that they chose to leave on themselves creatively, when they could have really done a different movie altogether, I think. For example, this is my idea for what I wanted to see and still want to see for an X-Men movie. Just completely different. I want to see a Magneto movie with Xavier. Just those two. The audience has grown tired of the format that we've all become accustomed to, that Fox constantly throws at us. And that's that cram as many mutants as you can in there, just for eye candy, just for fanfare. It doesn't matter. Gotta have the special effects in there. You don't have to do that. Just have 2 of the main characters in there. Have the story be about them. Have them be brothers. Follow the continuity of the comic, because that's a wonderful story to go off of, but have it center around Magneto, because the audience connects with him, because in First Class they did this fantastically. I would have loved to see a movie just about this, where it shows his fall from grace, or fall from being saved from his hatred. The best example I could think of is Lex Luthor from Smallville. I loved seeing Clark and Lex be best friends together, because it added a whole new way of thinking about Lex Luthor and really made the audience at the edge of their seat waiting to see when Lex was going to fall, or how he was going to fall into his descent to become absolutely evil. If they made a movie like that, where they put Xavier in Clark's shoes, where he knows what he has to do to save people and to try to enlighten humans to be able to bring everyone together in peace, and put Eric in Lex's shoes, who has this evil in him and this hatred in his heart and wants to be good and is best friends with someone who wants to change the world to be a better place. And he wants to believe in that and believe that he can change, but knows that he can't, knows that there's this evil in him that he cannot fight, that eventually he will have to give into. And the audience is just waiting for that event to set him off and turn against his friend. This movie did not play up on that angle, and it was more about the formation of the X-Men and things like that. I think that a movie solely about Xavier and Magneto traveling the world, just those two, searching for new mutants, you could have a movie based off of just that, based off of their adventures together, based off of them saving mutants, learning each other, hearing their conversations on why they believe the way they do. Those are interesting talks. I don't get tired of them. Maybe some people do, but I don't. I love those scenes. Have a movie just about that. Because in First Class, whenever they cut back to the other mutants who have maybe 10 minutes of screen time, I don't care. They're going to be in it for 5 minutes for eye candy or fanfare, and then they're going to cut back to the important characters. I know that. Everybody knows that. So what's the point of having them in the movie at all? If everyone's become so familiar with this format, change it up. Have a movie just about Magneto and Xavier. Before they were who they were. I think they were on the right track with this movie, but just before they were who they were, and by the end of the movie, the very end, we have complete characterizations of Xavier and Magneto, all fleshed out. They've had to fight a common enemy, and by the end of that fight, they both realize how they view things, why they view things, and that leads them both to forming their own separate groups. Xavier goes on to form the X-Men. Magneto goes on to form the Brotherhood, which they did in this movie. I'm not saying they didn't do that, but I would have preferred to see it a different way. They didn't play up the brother angle enough. I really think that. I got more of a close friends thing because the movie didn't start with Xavier and Magneto. It started with them on their own stories. I want to see a movie that centers on that relationship between Magneto and Xavier and have everything else built around that. This movie didn't feel like that. I could go on and on about that. Honestly, I think what would have been cool was if Xavier and Magneto are traveling around the world, saving mutants. Not quite sure what they're going to do yet. This movie, it seemed like they had a pretty good idea what they were going to do, and the CIA, and they're getting involved with each other, and it seemed like for discovering a brand new species on Earth, they seem to already have a pretty good idea how to go about things. And that's why I think my idea about them traveling the world and just all they care about is saving people and still discovering who they are would be a very interesting movie. Great writing. Have James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender in the role, same roles. They were fantastic. But do it differently. Don't have a heist action movie like we got. I want to see more of a movie like a relationship more like Sherlock Holmes and Watson. That kind of a bro relationship. So when they finally turn on each other, like Anakin and Obi-Wan, for example, it makes it all the more heart-wrenching because we know what's going to happen, and we've been with them on an important journey, saving people from death and cruelty of man. You know, that sounds like a much more interesting movie to me than anything else they could have done. And then from the regular X-Men format we're used to. I might be going on and on. I don't know. But that was my idea for an X-Men movie because I think Magneto's backstory is probably the most interesting of any other X-Men in that universe. Plus, I think the Shadow King would have been a pretty cool villain for an X-Men movie. Definitely would have changed it up. Since he can control psychic energy and operates pretty much on another plane of existence, which would have been very interesting to see Xavier fight in that. Other things I didn't like about the movie. January Jones' Emma Frost. I like seeing Emma Frost in this movie. I thought she was handled a lot better than in Wolverine, but that's not saying that much. The one thing I will say that Wolverine did do better than this movie did, which, by the way, I loved Wolverine's cameo in this movie. That was funny. If I had to make a list of the top 5 cameos, superhero movie cameos ever, that would probably be in the top 5, no doubt. That was funny, funny stuff. But another big error, why would Xavier not recognize him in the first film if this is a direct prequel? Wolverine wouldn't recognize him because this is before his adamantium operation, but why wouldn't Xavier recognize him? So, anyway, back to January Jones' Emma Frost. Her crystal form or diamond form looked like crap to me. I was eating rock candy when I was watching the movie. That's what it looked like. It looked bad. At least in the Wolverine movie, she looked like she had diamond skin. I mean, it looked like hundreds of thousands of diamonds on her body. This one looked like just glass. It looked terrible. My opinion, I had to hold up the rock candy to the screen to compare it, and honestly, it looked terrible. It looked like the rock candy in my hand. Having Alex Summers there as Havoc, who was cool, but not having Scott Summers, who's just been so wimpified in these movies, it's disgusting. But having him without having Scott, and not talking about if they're related, are they not, what's going on, are they rewriting that part of the mythology in this movie universe, that was frustrating. I want to see Scott Summers, or at least reference him, something. But give me Scott. I don't want to see Alex. I know he's not going to stay with the First Class for long. Scott Summers is like Xavier's son. He is like Xavier's adopted son. He should be in that First Class. That makes me mad that he is not there. I was surprised to see Moira McTaggart have some pretty good character development in the movie, since she's not really well known to fans, or not really well known to mainstream audiences. But she is one of Xavier's big love interests and a very big help to Xavier in the mansion in its early days, and stays a close ally. So that was pretty fun. The Mystique character, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, it was pretty fun to watch, but the whole subplot between Mystique and Xavier being stepbrother and stepsister, why are we doing that? Why go down that road? Why are you changing that? I mean, there is absolutely no point in doing that. It served no purpose. We all knew Mystique was going to go to Magneto anyway, so why have her associate herself with Xavier that closely? Plus, I've heard people say this, I have to agree. The way they kept talking about Mystique in her blue form and looking, not great or ugly, and other mutants, even Xavier saying, "You look gross. Don't look like that." And he's promoting mutants accepting who they are, and yet his adopted sister, he's saying, "Don't do that." Ugh. That was very hypocritical. But he's a young Xavier, and that's his stepsister he's talking to, so you can forgive that with just age and inexperience. So I can accept that, but still, it was weird. Plus, Mystique's role as a sister to Xavier and that whole thing, it was just stupid. I didn't like that. I would have much preferred Magneto finding her, but Xavier seemed to be the one finding, and Magneto was just there for the ride, helping Xavier along the way. So I must say that when Beast hit his beastly form, it was not nearly as bad as I thought it would be. He wasn't a reject from Where the Wild Things Are, like I said before. I was wrong on that. I enjoyed Beast. He was pretty cool, pretty badass. Didn't have a lot of screen time in his blue form. Big shocker there. But he was fun for the time he had on the screen. Little weird seeing him with hands on his feet, though. That is not in the comics. In the comics, all his mutation is that he has irregular sized hands and feet. That's it. And strength and agility, but that's it. And it all stems from his hands and feet being irregularly sized. He doesn't have hands on his feet. That was pretty stupid to see. So I guess those are my main thoughts on the X-Men First Class movie. The cameos were very tastefully done, very cool to watch, and it was fun seeing them pay homage to the other 3 films with Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Romijn. Those were very fun. And they found good spots to put them into. I really like that. No cameo from Stan Lee, unfortunately, but, what are you going to do? The X-Men movies are on the right track. But I will say this again. Stop making these X-Men movies. We are tired of the format. There are no more mutants I think Fox can throw at us that we have not seen. If they go any further, the mutants are going to be so unrecognizable that it's not even going to be funny. It's just getting bad. Reboot from the beginning, please. Or better yet, give the rights to Marvel. They have Marvel Studios now. They will give us the X-Men film that fans are waiting for, that will combine all the right elements, that X-Men First Class is on the right track to. Do not get me wrong. It was a great film. It was a fun ride. Is it imperfect? Oh, yes. Was it fun for what it was? Oh, yes. Was it the X-Men movie I want? No. But again, this is probably the most difficult Marvel property to translate to film because you're balancing so many characters with so many backstories. It's going to be impossible to please everybody. But I think this movie is definitely on the right track. But honestly, it's time to stop. It is time to stop. Unfortunately, it probably won't stop. We're going to get more X-Men movies from Fox. I really want them to stop. Give the rights to Marvel. If they go to Marvel, we're going to see an X-Men movie that's guaranteed to be different. And the X-Men movie more in line with the one that we all want and are waiting for. And please, if you do make another X-Men movie, throw us another villain. A more interesting villain besides Magneto, because we've seen him. Or Sebastian Shaw. Give us Apocalypse. Give us Mr. Sinister. Give us the Shadow King. I've been wanting him for a while. So yeah, please give us that. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you thought of the movie. I enjoyed it. Here's hoping to more great X-Men movies. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't know where they're going to take it from here. Let me know what you want to see happen. I'm Silver Lightsaber. I will see you later.